All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Mike Florio stopped by this week on the Pat McAfee show and revealed that at least 5 NFL teams have shown a willingness to pay Brandon Aiyuk his free agent asking price. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll talk about, if the Niners are going to move Aiyuk, what player in each scenario is likely to get them to act. Because right now they don't want to trade Aiyuk and he wants to be traded. So we'll hit all that coming up next. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary and tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And this video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code Krug, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to your first $100. All right. As we mentioned, Mike Florio of NBC Sports went on the Pat McAfee show and revealed that at least 5 teams have shown a willingness to pay Brandon Aiyuk the price that he is asking for. Let's hear from Florio right here.
How does everything play out in San Francisco with the Aiyuk situation? Is anything going to happen? Is he going to play for him this year? Like, how do you see that going?
It's funny. He'd been very compliant. He hadn't asked to be traded. There was a time before the draft where, as they were haggling over what he is worth, his agent was given permission to see if other teams would pay him what he was looking for. And at the time, it was $28 million a year. It's probably higher than that now because the market's changed. I'm told there were 5 teams that were ready to go and give him what he wanted, what the 49ers wouldn't give him. But they couldn't work out a deal with the 49ers for a trade. And, from the 49ers perspective, this is where it gets a little screwy. You've got 5 other teams that were willing to pay him what he wants and give you something to get him. Why won't you just pay him what he wants? So he's taken the stand now. He's asked to be traded. We'll see if he shows up for camp. But one thing about the 49ers, we've seen guys, you got to be the squeaky wheel to get paid. You got to be Deebo Samuel, demand to be traded for weeks, and you get paid. Nick Bosa, hold out until right before the start of the season. You get paid. I think Aiyuk is shifting into, I'm done being a nice guy here because that didn't give me anything. I'm going to start agitating to either get the contract I deserve or get traded to a team that'll pay me. I think one thing we can all agree on, $14.1 million is criminally low for a guy who was a second-team All-Pro, second in the league in yards per target. He had 1,300-plus receiving yards on only 105 targets last year. Imagine what he could do if he was getting the ball thrown his way 180 times like CD Lamb.
So there you go. Mike Florio on with Pat McAfee saying that at least 5 NFL teams have shown a willingness to pay Aiyuk his asking price. And at this point, I think a lot of people are asking the question, hey, why don't the 49ers just pay Aiyuk what he wants or trade him? But they don't want to do either. They don't want to pay him what he wants. And he's asked to be traded. And they said, no, we're not interested in trading you. But let's be honest about this. Every team has a price. For the 49ers to say, hey, you know what? Brandon Aiyuk's not going to be traded. Okay. That means that they like Brandon Aiyuk and they don't want to move him. But guess what? The Niners have a price on Brandon Aiyuk. And every team that comes knocking, if you pay the price that they want, they're going to move them. That's just the way life works in the NFL. If you offer what they want, then there's a chance they'll move them. So we're going to go through this team by team. And there's a great article, by the way, written by Dave Lombardi on the 49ers and how, the different teams that could be coming after Aiyuk in a trade and what they potentially could be offering. And he goes through it and he's like, he's got Atlanta offering the defensive end from Ohio State, Zach Harrison, who's a young defensive end. A lot of great length, really raw, but man, what a talent he is. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school and played for the Buckeyes. So it would be Zach Harrison and a 2025 first-round pick from the Falcons for Aiyuk. Okay, so then he's got the Raiders offering Malcolm Kuntz and a 2025 third-round pick for Aiyuk. I don't love that as much. I'm not a big Kuntz fan. He's got the Chargers offering Joey Bosa and a 4th-round pick for Aiyuk. That's interesting. And Dave talks about how interesting that is. Bosa's 29. He's had a bunch of injuries throughout his career, but the Niners would get to add him at a cost of only $8 million in 2024, plus an option that would cost the Niners about $25 million, according to what Dave's calculating here in 2025. There's no doubt. I mean, as Dave says it right here, it's intriguing. Joey Bosa and a 4th-round pick for Aiyuk is intriguing. The idea of pairing the Bosa brothers up front is intriguing. The 49ers love their defensive line, and they're a little thin there, especially at defensive end. Joey Bosa would be a phenomenal addition if he was healthy. That's the big question. Then the next trade they have is the Patriots offering Matthew Judon and their 2nd-round pick for Aiyuk. That's an interesting move. Judon is a little bit older. I believe he's a free agent at the end of the year. The Steelers, who are very interested, according to this, maybe an edge rush offer of Alex Highsmith and backup offensive tackle Dan Moore for Aiyuk and a 6th. I mean, come on. By the way, if you're getting Aiyuk in this trade, are you really going to try to tack on a 6th or a 7th? If Pittsburgh gets Aiyuk for Dan Moore and Alex Highsmith, they should consider themselves freaking lucky and not ask for a 6th-round pick in addition to. But that's the rumored trade they've got there with Pittsburgh. And then the Commanders trade. Terry McLaurin for Aiyuk and a 2025 compensatory 3rd-round pick. That's kind of interesting. You would think on the surface that it would be Terry McLaurin and a 3rd-round pick for Aiyuk, since Aiyuk is 26 and McLaurin, I think, is 28. It's 2 years of prime there. But in this trade, the Niners are trading Aiyuk and a 3rd-round pick to get McLaurin. So that's interesting. McLaurin's been a 1,000-yard receiver for 4 straight years. And $18 million for McLaurin is a nice little affordable rate for a wide receiver. It's probably what the Niners would like to pay Aiyuk, to be completely honest. And that would be his salary for the next couple seasons. So, Aiyuk's the better blocker. I think McLaurin's probably the better receiver. Very, very, very similar players, but Aiyuk's younger and a better run blocker. So, and that's why he's going to get more money. That's why he's going to make more than McLaurin. So should it be McLaurin and a 3rd for Aiyuk? Probably. But then this trade's got McLaurin to the Niners for Aiyuk and a 2025 compensatory 3rd-round pick. So those are the offers that Dave threw out there. Now, I'm going to go take a look at those teams and just kind of go through, what it is what they are likely offering and what it would actually take. Because let's be honest, the Niners are willing to trade Brandon Aiyuk. They say they aren't, because if you say you are, immediately the value goes down. If you say you don't want to trade him, now it's like, hey, the value is still very high. So I think they're saying that to maintain his value. But let's go through the teams that are speculated to have interest in Aiyuk, and let's just go through what they're likely to offer and what would get it done. Okay. We'll start with New England. New England, I think, is probably going to try to offer, a 2nd-round pick and, a backup type player, maybe a Matthew Judon, a 2nd-round pick. I could see that being their offer. If I'm the 49ers, I have interest in 3 guys with New England. It's Jabril Peppers, who could slide in at free safety for the 49ers. That'd be a very nice addition. Demario Douglas, who's a small receiver, but a good receiver, who could be, a pseudo replacement or, for Aiyuk. He's not going to really replace Aiyuk, but he's a good little receiver. And then Christian Gonzalez, who, played only a few games last year because he got hurt. But Christian Gonzalez, a 1st-round draft choice out of Oregon, a very good corner, and it would probably be a starting corner for the Niners. So right there, I would say they're probably going to offer a 2nd-round pick and a Matthew Judon type offer. I don't think that gets it done for me. But if you offered Christian Gonzalez, I'm now listening. And to me, the big move for the Patriots is, are they willing to trade their 2025 1st-round pick? Because if they are, they jump the line on all these other teams, and I'm sending Aiyuk to New England. especially if I could get that first round pick and something. If I could get Demario Douglas in their 2025 first, done deal. If I could get Jabril Peppers in their 2025 first, done deal. And of course, if I could get Christian Gonzalez in their 2025 first round pick, done deal. Why? Because that first round pick, the Pats are one of the worst teams in pro football. That's going to be a top 5 pick for sure. I mean, it might be top 2. It might be the first pick in the draft. I love Brandon Aiyuk. He's a talented player. If you could get a player and the Pats 2025 first, you need to make that trade. I mean, that is the trade. You want to replace, Trent Williams with a star left tackle? That's how you do it. You make this trade. You want to get a great player at the top of the next year's draft to fuel you on either side of the ball? That's how you do it. Make this trade. I can't believe that Elliott Wolf, the GM of the Patriots, would be dumb enough to offer their 2025 first-round pick, but that's the key asset for New England. If they offer that asset, I'm doing the deal. I'm trying to get them to sweeten it with Douglas or Peppers or Gonzalez, but if they're offering the 2025 first, we're doing the deal, and Aiyuk's going to be a Patriot. That's the number one asset that's acquirable right now, is that Patriots first-round pick. All right, let's talk about the Steelers for a second. The Steelers badly want Aiyuk, badly want Debo or Aiyuk. They've got George Pickens. They haven't won a playoff game in 5 years. They're sick and tired of that. So what is the Steelers going to offer? Now, I've heard people say, well, maybe Alex Highsmith and Dan Moore. The trade that Dave Lombardi had in, coming out of Pittsburgh was Alex Highsmith, Dan Moore, and Aiyuk for Aiyuk and a 6th-round pick. Alex Highsmith's a nice player. Good pass rusher opposite TJ Watt. I could take Nick Herbig as well from Wisconsin, who's a younger player. To me, and Pittsburgh has interesting guys that I'd be interested in. Darnell Washington, big tight end, huge tight end, would be the Niners tight end too. I'm not a fan of Dobbs or Allen, so heck, if Justin Fields was available, I'd take him. I kind of like Dez Fitzpatrick as a replacement wide receiver. He's not a star by any means, but he'd be interesting to me. I'd take him. But to me, the guy who makes you say, yeah, yep, we're making a trade, is if the Steelers offer Minkah Fitzpatrick. He is the difference maker. He's a free safety. He's a star player. He makes big plays. Turnovers, picks, sacks, big plays, forced fumbles. Minkah's a star. Minkah's a star free safety. The Niners don't have a free safety. If the Steelers badly want Aiyuk, what's going to make the Niners go, Minkah Fitzpatrick? You put Minkah Fitzpatrick on the table, and now the 49ers are interested. I don't think it's going to happen, but that you want to say, what's the one asset that Omar Khan can throw to John Lynch and say, hey, we want to push to the front of the line on Aiyuk? Fine. Include Minkah Fitzpatrick in your 2025 first, and you're at the front of the line. Okay, so that's Pittsburgh, all right? Now, another team that they say is really interested, according to the odds, is Jacksonville, Trent Baalke. Now, their 2025 first-round pick would be a nice asset. They also have Christian Kirk. They just drafted Brian Thomas out of LSU. They have Walker Little, the former Stanford offensive tackle. And they have Trayvon Walker, the former first pick in the draft, who's a defensive end of note, and very athletic. He's not Aiden Hutchinson. They took the wrong guy, but he's still a hell of a player. To me, with the Jaguars, Walker Little's a great throw-in because he's a backup tackle. He went to Stanford. He can play either side. I think that would be a nice get for the Niners in any trade involving Aiyuk with Jacksonville. But to me, it's Brian Thomas or Trayvon Walker. Those are the guys that move the needle. You offer Brian Thomas and Walker Little, you're now pushing to the front of the line. You offer Trayvon Walker and Walker Little, and you're pushing closer to the front of the line. To me, that's who's the difference maker in Jacksonville that gets Trent Baalke, Brandon Aiyuk? Brian Thomas. And if it's not Brian Thomas, it's Trayvon Walker. They're willing to move one of those guys. I think Aiyuk could easily be a Jaguar and be catching passes from Trevor Lawrence. All right, let's talk about the Raiders. Raiders are an interesting team. Raiders supposedly want Aiyuk, and Aiyuk's relative predicted right after the Super Bowl that he was going to play for the Raiders this year. Obviously, that 2025 first would be of tremendous value. Devontae Adams would be of tremendous value. Michael Mayer would be of tremendous value. Tyree Wilson, their first-round pick last year, who didn't really come of age. He would be of value. Nate Hobbs in the secondary. I'd be interested in him. Byron Young, I'd be interested in him. So, if the Raiders wanted Aiyuk, Devontae Adams and Michael Mayer. Devontae Adams and a first. Devontae Adams and Nate Hobbs. Devontae Adams in a second, something like that. Devontae Adams and Michael Mayer, I think, would make a lot of sense. And maybe the Niners in this situation then turn around and flip Devontae to the Jets. I mean, Devontae is passionate about playing with Rodgers. Rodgers is passionate about playing with Devontae. And the Jets have Michael Clemens, and they've got Jermaine Johnson and, some interesting young players. Hassan Reddick, Will McDonald, if you want an edge rusher, DJ Reed, if you want a corner, Malachi Corley, if you want a receiver, Garrett Wilson, if you wanted to trade Devontae in a pick and try to get a great young receiver. I don't think you could get him straight up for Devontae, but if you traded Devontae in a second-round pick or some series of picks, you might be able to get Garrett Wilson away from the Jets. That's how bad they want Devontae. So what's going to make the Raider deal go? Well, it's got to be Devontae and probably Michael Mayer. What's going to make a Jet deal go if you flip Devontae over there? Garrett Wilson would absolutely move the needle, but so would Hassan Reddick, Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens. The one thing about the Jets is they've got just a bevy of big-time rushers, and the Niners could use an edge rusher. Michael Clemens would be an incredible get. Jermaine Johnson would be absolute phenomenal. I mean, he would start probably at defensive end. There's also a lot of talk that the Jets, who just acquired Hassan Reddick, that he may not be there long. What if you could turn, Devontae Adams into Hassan Reddick in a pick? Maybe you get Michael Mayer and Devontae Adams for Aiyuk, and then flip Adams to the Jets for Hassan Reddick and draft picks, and that would be intriguing. So there's a lot of options there. That Devontae, though, is the guy that moves the needle. Jermaine Johnson for the Jets would be the guy that would absolutely make John Lynch say, you know what? Maybe we'll trade Aiyuk. Indianapolis is another team that's rumored to have a lot of interest in Aiyuk. Now, they don't have a ton that they would be willing to trade. 2025 first-round pick was one of their top options. Kenny Moore, though, the nickelback, is one of the best nickelbacks in pro football, and it's a really tough position to fill. If you could get Kenny Moore in their first-round pick, maybe you'd consider sending him to Indy. They also have Will Mallory, a good young tight end, Nick Cross, a young free safety from Maryland, Adi Tamiwa out of Barre, if you like a athletic defensive end with a lot of size and speed out of Northwestern that could be developed in Kasarik's system. So, I mean, Indy, to me, if you're trading Aiyuk to Indy, you got to get Kenny Moore. He's the nickel. He's the nickel back, awesome, shutdown player. You could have him and Lenore and Mooney, and you'd have a tremendous three-corner group going into this year. So if Indy's calling, they got to put Kenny Moore on the table. For the Chargers badly need a receiver. And they have, Dave Lombardi's talking about Joey Bosa. The 2025 first-round pick is obviously a value. Bosa, Ladd McConkey, Khalil Mack, and then some rookies. Cam Hart, the rookie corner out of Notre Dame. Brendan Rice, the rookie receiver from SC. Jerry's kid. How about Bosa? How about Aiyuk to the Chargers for Joey Bosa and Rice's kid? Would you do that? Would they do that? That would be intriguing. It would be intriguing. And then let's finish with Washington. I mean, they're talking about Terry McLaurin for Aiyuk and a third. Terry McLaurin could be that guy that moves the needle, that all of a sudden, John Lynch is like, yeah, we don't want to trade Aiyuk. Oh, you're going to move Scary Terry? Well, now we'll consider it. But I also think the other guy that moves the needle in Washington is Jonathan Allen. I mean, Jonathan Allen's a tremendous defensive end. The Niners, Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, it's not a bad combo, but Jonathan Allen's better than those guys. If you could get Jonathan Allen in a trade with the Commanders, and get some secondary piece as well, to me, Jonathan Allen is the guy that makes me say, okay, I don't want to move Aiyuk, but I'll move him for Jonathan Allen. So there you go. Are the 49ers going to move Aiyuk? It doesn't sound like it. They don't want to move Aiyuk. Oh, and then the Falcons. We should include the Falcons in this too. Lombardi went through and said the Falcons are hot to trot to try to get a star wide receiver. They have drafted Zach Harrison, the Ohio State kid, in the first round. They also have a 2025 first-round pick. They also have Rondale Moore, who's a very speedy receiver they just got from Arizona. They drafted Ruka Rororo. They've got the corner Mike Hughes. I mean, if they wanted Aiyuk and you could get Zach Harrison, who's a big, talented defensive end, maybe Zach Harrison, Rondale Moore, and a 2025 pick in the first or second round, I would do that. I like the idea of turning Aiyuk into a speedier wide receiver because there's a dynamic element that Aiyuk gives the 49ers that's going to be hard to replace if you don't have Aiyuk. You know what I mean? Because Debo doesn't give you that, and JJ doesn't give you that, and Danny Gray's unproven, and Jacob Cowing is unproven. So, I mean, in this situation, if you could get Zach Harrison, a big 275-pound, talented defensive end, very raw, but very talented, had 3 or 4 sacks his rookie year out of Ohio State. He was a 5-star recruit. If you could get a guy like Zach Harrison and a receiver that can move like Rondale Moore and a 2025 high pick, I'd be willing to do that. I'd be willing to do that. So there you go. As far as the Aiyuk trades, I don't think the Niners want to move him. In fact, I know they don't want to move him. I know he wants to be moved, and there's a bunch of teams that I'm sure would love to trade for him. And is he going to get traded? Well, he's only going to get traded if somebody pays a really high price, because that's what the Niners have attached to him, a very high price. And they should. He's an all-pro 26-year-old wide receiver who's entering the prime window of his career. He's efficient. He's a blocker. He's not a diva. He's a special guy. He's a special player. I'd sign Aiyuk. I'd pay him his money. I really would. I'd rather cave and keep that kind of talent on the roster. But if they've gotten to this point where they're going to trade him, they're not trading him unless they get the guy. In every situation. They're not trading him for just, you know what? They traded him tomorrow, 2 days from now. They traded him to the Commanders. What did they get? They got a 3rd and a 5th in 2025. And no, they're not doing that. They're inside their Super Bowl window. They're going to trade Aiyuk. It's going to be for players, good players that can help them win like now. The only thing that they could potentially be offered next year that would make them move, I think, is New England's first-round pick. If New England offers their first-round pick, they're probably going to push to the front of the line because that could be the first pick in the draft. And it might be, malpractice, general manager malpractice to turn that trade down. But let's just, to rehash this and recap it quickly for you, I don't think Aiyuk's going to be traded, but you never know because he is an enormous talent, and some team may really fall in love and offer a big price, but it won't happen without like the alpha type offer. It's not going to happen for a 2025 third. It is not happening. It's not going to happen for 2025 picks. I think you're going to have to get players or, as I said, New England's first pick. So here we go. The assets that will move the needle for New England. The asset that moves the needle is, no question, their first-round pick in 2025. The second asset that moves the needle is Christian Gonzalez. Those two assets move the needle and make you pause and go, For Pittsburgh, they want to steal Aiyuk. They want to get him for nothing. 3rd-round pick and, Alex Highsmith or, something like that. No. If they want Aiyuk, it's Minkah Fitzpatrick and a day 2 pick. That's what would get it done. That's what would make the Niners actually trade him to Pittsburgh if they offered Minkah Fitzpatrick and a day 2 pick. Jacksonville's only getting Aiyuk if they offer Brian Thomas or Trayvon Walker and a pick. They're not getting him otherwise. They're not getting him for just a draft pick. They're going to have to offer something significant. They could potentially get him for a good draft pick in Christian Kirk. They could get him for Trayvon Walker and a good draft pick, but for the most part, I think they're going to have to trade Brian Thomas or Trayvon Walker to get Aiyuk in Jacksonville For the Raiders, I think it's going to definitely take Devontae Adams and or Michael Mayer. And I think there's a chance that you could get the Jets involved in a three-way and spin Devontae there. For Indy, I think the key name is Kenny Moore. If they're going to make a move for Aiyuk, you can't trade Aiyuk to Indy unless you get Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore is a great nickel player, and maybe you could get him in a second-round pick or a third-round pick, something like that. For the Chargers, you're not getting a Brandon Aiyuk unless you're willing to give up Joey Bosa. And even then, I don't know if that's a fair deal. I might want Joey Bosa and Brendan Rice, or Joey Bosa and Ladd McConkey for Aiyuk and a third or something like that. I may want more than Joey Bosa because he's been hurt, but I don't think you're getting it done without Joey Bosa. You might be able to get it done if you offered Khalil Mack and you could engage the Niners on Mack, but I don't think Aiyuk's a Charger if Bosa or Mack is not coming back to the Niners. And then with Washington, it's Terry McLaurin or Jonathan Allen. I don't think Aiyuk's joining his buddy Daniels in DC unless Scary Terry or Jonathan Allen are coming back this way. And then for Atlanta, Atlanta's kind of a deep, that's kind of a wild shot. That's a wild stab. But they've had kind of a unique offseason. I mean, they signed Kirk Cousins and then drafted Michael Penix. And there's a lot of pressure, it seems like, in Atlanta right now on Arthur Blank to make the big splash move. And they might be the team that blinks. If they were willing to offer you Zach Harrison, Rondale Moore, and a first-round pick in 2025, you know what? That might move the needle. I mean, there's no true alpha pick there. Rondale's a speedster, but he's not a star. Harrison's a good prospect, but he's not an elite prospect. So that first-round pick of the Falcons would be probably the key asset that they would offer to get the Aiyuk trade done. But they are a team to watch for sure, because of the way they've operated this offseason, the urgency with which Arthur Blank seems to be going about things, and how desperate they appear to be to add a significant star at wide receiver. So, as I said, you might be able to hold them up. I mean, heck, if you could demand Ruka, I would try to do that as well. I mean, could you imagine that? Zach Harrison, Ruka, and a pick in next year's draft. You add to your defensive line, maybe you get them to throw in Rondale Moore. I might just do it straight up. If I could get Ruka, Zach Harrison, and Rondale Moore for Aiyuk, I'm doing that straight up. I don't even need the 2025 first. Roro's a monster inside. Harrison's a blue chip talent. Rondale Moore is a speedster and a big playmaker. So I'd make that move. I absolutely would make that move. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed Mike Florio's comments. Good article in The Athletic by Dave Lombardi on the different trade options. We kind of referenced that a little bit in talking about this during the video. And I'll say this, I don't think Aiyuk's going to get moved, but if he is getting moved, it's for a damn good player. It's not going to be for a 2025 draft choice unless it's the Patriots' first pick overall or the Patriots' first-round pick. And that would be a huge gamble. It'd be a huge gamble. It'd be like the Niners looking at the Patriots going, you guys are going to suck huge this year. So we're going to take your first-round pick, and we'll be picking first, second, or third come April when the draft is held in Green Bay. So that will be some drama to watch. But there you go. Do I think Aiyuk's going to be traded? No, I gotta think at the end of the day, the Niners come to their senses and pay this guy and get him there before week 1. But if by chance he's going to hold out all year and they're going to make a trade, they ain't making that trade unless they get a significant asset coming back. And tell me what you think of the trades that we outlined in this video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.